Hey guys, welcome back to Lessons with Miss Lewis. I have got you covered today on your science lesson. So let's take a quick chat about what happened last week. Last week we launched an experiment. Can you remember our essential question from our experiment? Our essential question was, do plants need soil? And based on our experiment, we determined that plants do not need soil to grow because our plants that were resting in the paper towel, they did grow. All three of those beans sprouted as opposed to only one bean sprouting in the soil. We're going to continue updating on that experiment over the next couple of weeks, but today we're going to launch another experiment. So, in science, essential questions guide our experiments. It determines what we want to know and helps us focus in on that one thing. So, if I want to know whether or not plants need soil, am I going to change the amount of sunlight that they get? No. I am going to focus on the soil. Just like the only thing that we changed last week was soil. So, before we get into that, I want to talk about, what does essential mean? Essential means most important. So, our most important question that we tried to answer last week was, do plants need soil to grow? Our essential question for this week is, do plants need sunlight to grow? So we're going to focus in on sunlight. Now, if I want to know if plants need sunlight to grow, what do you think I'm going to change? Sunlight, right? So I'm going to come at you with the materials that we need. Alright guys, so I have the materials that we're going to be using for today's experiment. If you want to see if you can find some of these things around your house, if your family says it's okay, go ahead and join me. Alright, so we are going to need a 1/2 cup measuring cup if you have it. It's not the most important thing, but if you do have it, I would grab it. 2 cups of the exact same size. So I'm using some disposable clear plastic cups, but you can also use any kind of disposable cup that you have. Or something that I made is I just cut an orange juice carton and cut it in half, and I could use this as a planter too if I wanted. So it's one of those reduce, reuse, recycle kind of things. All right, we are going to need beans again. Of course, we are going to need our potting mix, same kind that I used last week. And we are going to need water. All right, so let's get started. So just like last week, we are going to give one plant what we think it needs and make sure that the other plant does not get what we think it needs. So we can compare and contrast those plants later and analyze whether or not plants really do need sunlight to grow. So to help the experiment be more accurate, I want to make sure that that everything else about the experiment stays the same. So the only thing that we want to change is the sunlight. So we're going to use the same amount of soil, the same beans, the same water, and the same cup. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to put our cups together. Alright, so I've got my 2 cups here. I'm going to take my 1/2 cup measuring cup and get some soil. It's kind of hard to get in there, and you have to try really hard not to be messy. Alright, I've got 1/2 a cup, give or take, of soil. And I'm going to put that in 1 cup. And then I'm going to try to get the same amount of soil in the next cup. Try your best to get them exactly the same, but if they're not exactly the same, that's okay, because they're both going to be about 1/2 a cup. Alright, be careful not to make too much of a mess. I would suggest if you're doing this at home and your family says it's okay, maybe lay down some paper towels so that you can wipe up any mess that you might make. Then you're going to get 6 beans from your bag of beans. And remember, you can use any type of bean that you have at home. Any bean will work. Alright, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beans. 6 beans exactly. Alright, So I'm going to show you how I'm going to place the beans inside. So I have my 2 cups of soil and I have my 6 beans. I'm going to put 3 in each cup. Now, I'm going to place the beans right into the cup, just like this. I'm going to try to spread them out so that they each have space to grow and not be hindered by the other. And now I'm going to take and stuff them deeper into the soil a little bit so that they can be completely covered. If you're doing this at home, make sure that you cover up the beans with soil, just like this. The reason that we try to get the beans as covered as we can is so that they have a safe place to really start growing roots, okay? So if they don't have a safe place, they might not sprout. So we have to really make sure that we're giving them their best chance to grow. And now it's time for the water. So I'm going to try and make sure that I get about 1/2 a cup, 1/4 of a cup. So I'm going to pour half of this 1/2 cup, because 1/2 of 1/2 is actually 1/4. So I'm going to pour that in to the first cup now. I didn't want to pour too much water because too much water can kill a plant really easily. So I'm going to do another 1/4 of a cup. So both plants now have the same amount of soil, the same amount of beans, and the same amount of water. I'm going to stuff this one in a little bit more, give it some protection. And now it's time to set up the location of each plant. Alright guys, so this is plant number 1. I'm going to place it directly in the windowsill behind my couch to give it the most sunlight. This is right above where we put our previous plants that are still growing. So I know this is a good location for good sunlight. So I'm going to leave this here. Alright guys, so this is my second location for plant number 2. As you can see, this is deeper inside my house, and this is where no sunlight is going to come through to the plant. It's right behind my art collection and in between the walls so that no sunlight comes through here. Okay, so if you're trying this experiment at home, you want to find 2 good places for your plants. So for plant number 1, you want to find somewhere where there's lots of sunlight and for the plant to have. And your second location, you want it to be somewhere that's nice and dark so that we can really analyze whether plants need sunlight or not to grow. So maybe somewhere like your closet or underneath a table, somewhere like that. All right, so now I want us to think about, what do we think is going to happen from this? I want you to think about, based on what I know about plants, do I think that they need sunlight to grow? What's going to happen here? And now I want you to head on over to your Google Classroom and complete the formative for today. See you later, guys.